Hello and welcome back to another video here on the Matov FM channel. It's been a little while since the last video. There has been a few issues with some of the recordings, but we've got this video going out today. It should be a very interesting one, and hopefully it won't be too long before the FC25 videos make a return. I need some solutions, so if you want to join the Discord down below to help me out with that, to fix the issues with the game, please do go and get involved. Join that nonetheless anyway. It's good community in there. But in today's episode, obviously, as you can see from the title, we will be taking a look at the predictions I made in a video. It was around 9 months ago now when the Premier League season started, and we'll be taking a look at those predictions that I made, how they went down, and overall if I've done myself justice with my predictions. So I'm going to have on the screen the predicted table that I made, and then also the real table, the final table after 38 games, and we'll compare the two and see how we did. Now in the video, the table it had a few updates made to it after, which were posted in the Discord, the top link in the description, and the table you see here is the updated one after the few changes that were made. I think we're going to start at the bottom of the league table. It's probably one of the most interesting things in my predicted table. At number 20 was Nottingham Forest. It was a very interesting call. I'm pretty sure they started the season with Nuno. I just didn't think they were going to be that convincing. I thought they, had scraped barely survival in the last two seasons, and to get any higher than 20th seemed like quite a task. But there was probably some teams of less quality compared to them, even if they were going to be a relegation bound team. Obviously, as we know, they were in third place for a big majority of the season. So credit where credit's due. Really, they did very well for themselves, and they managed to finish 7th place, qualifying for that Conference League playoff, which will be massive for them. And yeah, pretty bad, probably the worst I think result we got on this whole table. Not good at all. The next position, 19th place, was Southampton. They finished 20th, and we'll go through the whole relegation. We had 18th Ipswich, 17th Leicester, and in 19th it was Ipswich, 18th it was Leicester. So if you took Nottingham out of the equation, we actually got those three teams pretty close, one position off for all of them. It was just Nottingham that did make the difference in the end, which was a bit frustrating really, but I think that it was close enough. I thought Leicester would be the team to survive. I thought Ipswich were a similar case to Luton last year, how they finished in 18th. I did predict them to finish 18th, just about surviving. That wasn't really the case. They weren't as convincing as Luton. Definitely did struggle a little bit, but I'm sure they're going to have a good season in the Championship, hopefully getting straight back up. If we go back over to the predicted table, the team we have in 16th place is Everton. Now that was not the worst shout really. The last two seasons, similar to kind of Nottingham, how they really struggled to survive. They did have a much better season. That 13th place, I think David Moyes coming in was really good for them, and in their final season at the Goodison Park, I think they really put on a good display. Overall, a pretty good performance from them. And 16th to 13th is not the biggest difference. It's a good position to be in, whichever they were in for Everton, a team who don't challenge as high as they used to, but definitely have that potential to go and do in their new stadium, the Hill Dickinson Stadium, which will be interesting. In 15th place we have Wolves. They eventually finished in 16th, so it was around that area. Not the most convincing season for them really. There's so much quality in the Premier League, but I don't feel like the quality they have some incredible talents like Cunha. There's loads of other players like that, but Cunha, the most notable player. They had Larson, the striker, I believe, was the name, the Norwegian striker. It's an interesting one really. I just don't think it's gelled for them in recent times. That's why I did put them in 15th. They ended up finishing one position lower in 16th. In 14th place, we'll go through the next four teams in a row. It was Bournemouth, Brentford, Brighton and Fulham. Now I thought all these teams would finish in and around the same area. I think they've got a bit more than the likes of Everton and Wolves. I think they are teams who are really trying to break into that kind of the European spots and have a good go at that. Now in terms of where these four teams finished, so if we take a look at what I said, it was 11th Fulham, 12th Brighton, 13th Brentford, 14th Bournemouth. It was 8th for Brighton, 9th for Bournemouth, 10th for Brentford and 11th for Fulham. So I got 11th right with Fulham, but it was Fulham who actually finished the lowest out of these 4 teams. It was Brentford next in 10th. It was 9th, with being Bournemouth, who I predicted to finish at the bottom, and then it was Brighton, who finished the highest out of all the teams in 8th place. It was a very, very good season for these 4 teams. A bit of a drop-off for some of them, to be honest, particularly Bournemouth and Fulham, but Brighton managed to pull it back in the end off the back of a very, very good start to the season for them. We got the Fulham prediction right. Brighton finished a lot higher than I thought. With the new young manager, I thought they would have a bit of a shaky first season, but would go on to build something good. Dan Herzler has done a very good job to get them in 8th. Unfortunate, really, to just miss out on those European spots. Brentford, a very good season in 10th, and it was Brighton, I said it was in 12th, 14th for Brighton, 9th place. They're a record finish, and overall for these 4 teams it was a very, very good campaign. But the reason they finished much higher and I predicted them much lower, there's just so much quality in the Premier League, but it just wasn't shown by some of the teams above them in this campaign. There was a few mistakes made, probably not mistakes, I think they were reasonable with the choices I've made, but I think they've had an absolutely horrible campaign, which is why I might have got the set of teams right, but the order and the position in the table is wrong because of some of the teams above them. In 10th place, I predicted Newcastle. I felt like, they'd missed out on Europe on the final day, or was it because Man United won the FA Cup and they missed out last year, so they had that focus on the league. It paid off for me in the end. 5th place was the finish. They lost their last 2 games. Fortunate for them, really, that Aston Villa lost for them to qualify. 10th place. It's been a good season for them, though, on the whole. Obviously, that top 6 race, top 7 race, which we'll get to in a second, was very, very competitive, but 10th place, probably not the best shout. A little bit higher we should have expected. And they managed to finish 5 places higher. In 5th place, a team who also finished 5 places higher was Chelsea. I thought, Chelsea wouldn't bounce back as good as we expected them to. 4th place, very, very good season for them, and it looks like they're set to also win the Conference League. I think, with one more season, with Maresca and, all those players who were starting to build, I feel like the issue with Chelsea was when they signed all these new players, I think they had a big issue with kind of identity and the type of football that they wanted to play, and the players who would play. I think now that they've found that, 4th place was probably a bit higher than they were even expected to finish, and that definitely came in the last few games of the season, but you can't complain. They finished 3 points clear of Newcastle as well, so done very well to get back into the Champions League. Obviously 2 times Champions League winners, and it's nice to see them doing well. Obviously not the team as probably they were back in like 2021 when they won that second Champions League, but they are still a very, very good team who have the chance to go and do some good things in the next few months and seasons. So 5 places up for them. Now, the team I predicted in 8th place, West Ham, I thought this quality they brought in, and the team they already had, with Kudus, Paquetá, Bowen, all these players, and they had it was Lopetegui who came in. It just didn't go well, and it's still not going well for them, really. They managed to recover it a little bit at the end, probably on the last day of the season with that final win. West Ham, with Graham Potter, they even brought in some very good high quality players. Evan Ferguson, it's just not worked out for them, and they brought in so many good players. Alvarez, Jean-Claire Todibo is a very, very good centre back, and Wan-Bissaka, all these players, it's just not worked for them at all, and it's a shame, really, because they are a really, really high team with lots of quality. And I think, with those Bournemouth, Brentford, Brighton, Fulham teams, the 3Bs and Fulham is what I'm going to call them, they have the quality, and they're the kind of teams looking to get back into those European spots. But West Ham, so much better in quality, you'd argue, and it was a really, really disappointing season for them on the whole, considering they were European champions just 3 or 2 years ago, I believe it was. Not the best season, and hopefully they can go on and bounce back. Now, in 7th place, I predicted Crystal Palace to go on and finish there. Now, it made a lot of sense to me in my mind. I think this was the boldest pick I made out of all the choices in my predictions. I think it was within reason, if I'm honest. We always have that team, that outsider team, who do go on to finish in 7th place, getting that new Conference League spot, which may not have been there a few years ago. Now, credit where credit's due, that went to Forest. Forest had probably a similar overview going into this season that Crystal Palace had, and maybe I didn't recognise that as well. Crystal Palace, under Glasner, very, very high quality players, similar to West Ham, very, very good team, and Glasner experience in getting teams, he won the Europa League with Eintracht Frankfurt, which was an incredible journey for them, really. I think Crystal Palace, they finished 12th in the league. I think they had a very, very rough start to the season, and I did think they would be able to get into that 7th place at the start, but they managed to climb back up, and maybe if they had a better start to the season they could have get there. But the thing we are forgetting is they won the FA Cup, and Crystal Palace will be playing in the Europa League next year. Now, maybe the message is not in this was not that the league position, it was to do with Glasner and the fact that he can get these teams into European football, and that's exactly what he's done. Maybe there was a bit of they only conceded 1 goal all campaign, I believe, in 4 or 5 games, the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, semi-final and final. They only conceded 1 goal in the Europa League. He knows how to get these teams clearly into the European football, and I think I expected them to go and have a good go at it this year, and to win the the FA Cup, in the way that they did was very, very impressive. So maybe it wasn't the 7th place finish I predicted, but they did get the European football, maybe not in the way I expected them to or wanted them to, but they did it in the end. So overall, even if we were 5 places off, I'm not too frustrated with that. It's going to be tough for them next season to balance all that, but I think he'll set up his team. There'll be lots of backing from the board. He'll set them up to go and have a real good push at that Europa League campaign. It'll be really, really interesting to see a fresh face like Crystal Palace in the Europa League, alongside the team who I predicted in 6th place, Aston Villa. Now, Aston Villa have had a very, very interesting few seasons. I remember when Steven Gerrard was appointed and they were just looking absolutely hopeless, is probably the way to put it. And I thought, I'll give you a story here. I have a friend who is an Aston Villa fan, and I said, if next season you can get a Champions League quarter-final and a 6th place in the league, a Europa League qualification, that would be a very, very good season. And that's exactly what they did. Quarter-final in the Champions League. Very, very unlucky to not go through. I think they're beating a team. They lost to a team who could potentially win it at the weekend, where it's going to be a very, very good game between PSG and Inter Milan. And they're very unfortunate to lose that one. They finished 6th, arguably robbed. That's discretion as to whether they were robbed or not. I'm not going to comment on that. It's a very interesting one. But I think either way, it could have gone either way, to be honest. It's just unfortunate. You will feel frustrated on the day that they did just miss out. And you can never say what was going to happen after that. Man United still could have won the game after that. So very unfortunate. But I think they should be very happy with that Europa League. It's like Forest. Forest fans, they'll be disappointed to miss out on Champions League, considering they were there. They were definitely in with a shout up to 2nd place at times in the season. But in the long run, if they do qualify for the Conference League by winning that playoff, I think they're very, very happy, because they can have a real good shot in that tournament. The Conference League is suited for teams like Nottingham Forest, and I'm really happy, to be fair, that the Premier League representative will be them, because it's not a team like Chelsea who've clearly just breezed through the whole competition. Probably as expected. I feel like that loses the concept of the Conference League. Is for kind of those outsider teams, and I know people like to argue that it's not good to force teams to win European trophies by making competitions like that, but I think this concept is really, really good. It's one of the new things in football in recent times that has not had its negatives, really, so I can't complain. And for Aston Villa, I think in the long run, they also made an FA Cup semi-final and lost to the winners, which is something they can have no shame about, really. They could have probably done a bit better, but what can you do? I think they've had a very, very good season. They've kept some good players. They may have lost Duran, but the money they'll get will probably benefit them, and I think it'll be a very interesting summer for them. They've got an incredible manager in Unai Emery, who is a Europa League master, 4 times champions of the Europa League, 3 times in a row with Sevilla and 1 time with Villarreal, beating Manchester United for that, which I'm sure he'll, will be considering the fact that he lost to them to go into the Champions League as a bit of revenge when he beat them in that final back in 2021. But yeah, I think they should be happy with that, and 6th place, the correct prediction, and it's a good result for them. In the end, it's good to see that they maintained that final position in 5th place in my predicted table, and 4th place in my predicted table, Tottenham Hotspur and Manchester United. As you can see on that table, 17th and 15th, we had a difference of 11 positions for Man United and 12 positions for Tottenham. The worst ever team, I believe, Tottenham were, to not get relegated. They finished with 38 points in 38 games. Now for Tottenham, I think their case is a bit more kind of, it's not understandable, but they did kind of play less players in order to focus on that Europa League campaign, and it worked. As you can see on that table, there's red for the relegation, and then green along with the other 5 teams in green for the Champions League, because they won the Europa League, and I'm sure they'll be happy to win that trophy. I'm happy for them that they've managed to win that, but they maybe played some players in order to rest others for the games in the Europa League, and I guess their strategies work. But for Man United, it's just not been acceptable at all. For both teams, unacceptable. But I feel like Man United have had no excuse really, in another runners-up medal, 4 years separated between the two. And 4 years before that, when they won it in 2017, 8 years difference has been made. It's been shocking, really. It's been absolutely shocking to see, and who knows where they're going to go next. So the less said about that prediction, the better. In 3rd place, I predicted Arsenal to finish in 3rd place. It was, in fact, Manchester City. They had a very, very poor season, it must be said. Man City, and Arsenal finishing in 2nd for the 3rd season in a row. I thought Man City, would finish 2nd to the team who we're obviously going to get to in a second in 1st, and Arsenal obviously going to finish below Man City. It's not the case. Arsenal finally beat Man City for a season, but it didn't matter because the team above them managed to win the league and beat them to it. It was just not a convincing display from Arsenal. Too many missed opportunities, and for Man City, I mean, they pulled it back in the end, but it's just not a good season for them, and the less said about it for both, the better. And the team finally who won that league title, Liverpool. Very, very good shout from me, it must be said. Listen, quality, a very good manager, the players, very, very good, and I think it just made sense that they were going to win the league. We've got to be, when making these predictions and when looking at these teams, we've got to be, forward thinking. We've got to be harsh in our decisions. Why not say that Liverpool can win the league? They very much did so, and it was a very, very good campaign. In terms of European output from these teams, could have been better. Liverpool, unfortunate against PSG, you'd argue, but it had to be a lot more convincing. They might lose to the potential winners alongside who else? It was Arsenal who lost, and Aston Villa. I think PSG have had a few problems with our boys here in England, and Man City losing to Real Madrid. That was when they were in the real dark days of their season. And then Real Madrid lost to Arsenal lost to PSG, same with Liverpool, same with Aston Villa, and yeah, the other representatives, just them four, wasn't it? I believe we had as the representatives. But yeah, it's been a very, very interesting season for the Premier League, one that threw up a few very, very controversial things, very interesting, and I think it was a very different season. I feel like the football healed a little bit this season. It may not have been the most spectacular, but it definitely had a few good things in there, and overall it's been a good season. It has been a very, very good season, and hopefully we can have another one similar, maybe much better, in the next one. So if you did enjoy that video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. As I said in the intro, make sure to join the Discord. I'm trying my best to get those videos out, but there's some things that you just can't help. We will be making another video for these predictions when the time comes around for the new season. We'll obviously be taking a look at the new teams that have come up in Sunderland, Leeds and Burnley. And yeah, we'll see you again for another video on the channel whenever it is. Thank you and bye bye.